All right, once again, it's on. And as I always quote the world famous Curtis Wilson, it's the weekend, baby. And once again, welcome to another Friday with your boy, the boss, for another edition of the weekly wrap. Uh, I my panel was a little late tonight, but I will be having a few other individuals dropping in on us. Before I get any further, for those of you out there too that celebrate it, um, you know, hope you all enjoyed your Thanksgiving yesterday. And while you was all out and about, I hope everybody was keeping themselves maxed up, masked up, gloved up, and just keeping yourselves and your family safe. Hey, what's going on, Dirk? Thanks for joining me, man. So, like I said, I hope everybody got kept themselves safe, loaded yourselves up with as much turkey and ham and other sorts of meat-based products that you can get your mitts on. So, with all that out the way, I wanted to go ahead and cover a few little news items that have happened during the week, and one of them, which I'm real excited to go ahead and get into this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into this right now. Is that there's been rumblings that Playground Games has already started talking about Forza Horizon 5 for the Series X and S, possibly looking at a release next year. Now, take this all with a grain of salt. Yeah, okay, yeah, Tech, you're saying you're in the house, but you're on the wrong side of the desk. Hey, what's going on, Sandy? Glad you're able to join me, man. Yeah, this guy right here, Sandy, awesome dude, awesome gamer from who hails from Sweden. Maybe one of these days I might be able to drag him in here kicking and screaming just to kind of like get his thoughts as far as it goes from the PC gamers side on things. So, but yeah, so anyways, but yeah, that's actually one of my news items. But yeah, so um the Forza Horizon 5 news. I want to say for now we can all kind of like take this with a bit of grain of salt. It it's a leaked item that comes from of all people Jeff Grubb, and we all know Jeff has one hell of a track record when it comes to like leaks. But just like any leak, I just want to say tell everybody, before you go hitting him up, hitting Playground Games up, hitting Phil up, just kind of like just sit, wait, chill, twiddle your thumbs, watch Charlie Brown Christmas, The Grinch, whatever, just anything to keep your mind off of it. But I just wanted to put it out there so that it's at least there in your subconscious. And I guess the only other thing that's kind of significant about this is that we're all accustomed to seeing Horizon games come after the motorsport releases. So yeah, like I said, this is kind of kind of a head scratcher. But from what I have been understanding is that the next motorsport is on the way, but apparently it's not as close as a lot of us was thinking. Um, for my own knowledge, as far as I was aware, Forza Motorsport has been you can't call it 8 no more because they're resetting it, so it's just Forza Motorsport. And as far as I'm aware, it's been, I guess, on the chopping block. I want to say for like coming on probably like 2 years now. So according to Phil, it's still very, very early in progress. What's that, Dirk? For motorsport? Yeah, that matter of fact, yeah, I think that might be more accurate. So to me, it's like you know what, no rush because um Turn 10 always does an awesome job. So you know, if we want them to retain the driving simulator crown, then it's best to go ahead and just kind of sit back, chill, and let them work the magic that they need to. So, but if a new Horizon is coming, that should occupy everybody's time for a pretty good long while. At least as far as I would imagine. So yeah, so for the first time, Horizon is looking to probably hit first before the Motorsport, and I think one of the holdups on that is the fact that they are reworking the Forza Tech engine. So with all these RDNA2 tools now becoming live and hot, I'm really really interested to see as to what how this new Forza is going to look. But Forza Tech or not, Playground Games uses their own engine, and I'm really dying to see as to how that's going to look on the Series X and the S. Hey, what's going on, Kima? Oh man, dude, that's a good point. Real good point. I do remember reading that turn that who else is it? It isn't just Turn 10. I think it's one more internal studio I think is helping 343 polish up stuff with Halo. I'm trying to remember who it is. I want to I want to almost say it's Compulsion, I'm thinking. But yeah, that oh god, that situation there, man, just oh god. Oh yeah, man. When they first talked about uh uh the new Forza game, Sandy, ray tracing is definitely being talked about. So we're talking about ray tracing in up to 60 frames per second, but who's to say, once you get these tools fully optimized and under thumb, dude, we could be seeing like up to 120 frames. Granted that, yeah, it might not be going, it might not be running at no 4K, but I'm one of those people where it's like, dude, I really don't have to have 4K. I mean, if y'all can do 1440p or 1080p with the ray tracing and 60 to 120 frames, then that ought to work for me. I'll be happy. So, but but yeah, so that's the word. That's the word on that. So, like I said, just for every leak that I'm about to talk about, just you know, take it with a grain of salt. And that actually moves me over into the next bit of news and leak. Well, dude, you're primarily a PC gamer, San. So most cases, I mean, I definitely don't think you'd be bothering with 4K that much. So, shoot, let's see here. But yeah, so the next leak that I'm about to go into is in regards to, well, you know what? It's not really a leak. It's actually confirmed news. Most of you probably might already be aware of that Bethesda slash ZeniMax is already opening up a brand new studio to start work on a brand new exclusive AAA title. Um, in the comments, I would like to see what you guys thoughts are as to what this could be. I mean, do you think it could be another shooter like Wolfenstein or Doom, or do you think it's another open world RPG like Fallout and Elder Scrolls? Because personally, I'm thinking that this is probably like another open world RPG. That's what I'm personally thinking. And there's, some people who are speculating that this could be a like a brand new online title, something in the same vein as like Fallout 76 and Elder Scrolls Online. So, like I said in the comments, I'd be interested in knowing what you guys would, probably think this could be. So, with that out the way, moving on to the next bit of news. Yeah, as Derp was saying earlier about the Valhalla patch, is real funny, as as much as the trolls like to attack about the whole thing about, oh, that's no excuse that the tools are late. That's no excuse at all. Yeah, the PS5 is going to smoke y'all. Well, the new updates and the patches starting to right the ship that ran aground. So I don't think they're finished. I believe there's a lot more stuff, because as Phil has already stated in an interview, with these tools now finally starting to get more realized by a lot of these teams across the globe, they're only scratching the surface of what the Series X and S are fully capable of. And I believe as time goes on, we're going to start seeing that true next gen experience, and we're going to start seeing a bit of a difference. Now, how big of a difference we're looking at? I mean, who knows? I mean, my thing is that I don't want to, like, sit there and kind of like, just raise expectations too high. But with the computing power that is already in the Xbox, as it is, and then let's not forget that these systems are also built to make use of the cloud. So all that cloud compute talk that we gotten all throughout the Xbox One generation, especially during the development cycle of Crackdown 3, that a lot of that stuff is going to start being real heavily realized. So I don't know, like I said, I'm real interested in seeing how this goes. See, let me check up on these comments here. Let's see. I'm trying to think, if they do a new MMO, Sandy, I'm real curious as to what they would base the IP off of, because you think about it, they already did one for Fallout, they already did one for Elder Scrolls. I can't see them doing an MMO for Doom or Wolfenstein. So I don't know. It's dude, it's the guess. It's up there. I can't think of any other IP that would be possible for doing a doing an MMO from. Hold on a second. Looks like we got one panel person coming in, and there we go. Looks like somebody enjoyed his Thanksgiving.
Yes, sir.
Done enjoyed the stuffing, the turkey, done shook off the itis.
Yeah, what's funny about that is, well, first of all, y'all, if y'all don't know anything else about me, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. For some reason, when it comes to turkey, I can eat turkey bacon, I can eat turkey breast, sandwich slices, but turkey in itself, I don't care to eat it. I don't know. That's just weird. For some reason, whatever reason, I don't know why. But like base, I've, hold on, just put it kind of like in Dragon Ball Z terms. I can do Super Saiyan 2 turkey, Super Saiyan God turkey, but base turkey though, form, I for some reason it's just not my, it's not my particular stick like that. For some reason. I don't know why. But besides that, it was cool. I can't complain. It was cool. Uh-huh. And I didn't, you know what? The thing is too, I don't usually do the usually for the most part when it comes around this time of year to do Thanksgiving, all that food. I don't go to like sleep immediately. I get drowsy. and I might kind of like go like in and out, but just the way my sleep schedule is set up, it's just it doesn't go there. It doesn't go all the way through. It doesn't process. So it is a pain in the ass, but it has its benefits at times. But besides that, it was cool. It was cool. Can't complain.
All right, man. Well, shoot. Well, glad you could join me for tonight's after Thanksgiving edition of Weekly Wrap. So for tonight's news, I'm just covering, like I said, I'm just covering the stuff that happened within the week. I already done spoke to everybody about the rumors going around of Forza Horizon 5 looking to be just right around the corner, a lot more closer to launch than a lot of us think, which is a little unusual because we're usually used to seeing motorsport launch before Horizon, but this time it looks like it's flipping completely over. So we're probably the rumors, at least from of all people, Jeff Grubb, and I told everybody, take it with a grain of salt. We could be looking at something like, say, like late next year. So that's that's a possibility, and it'd be pretty interesting because from other bits of information, Forza Motorsport itself is like way out there. I mean, Dirt even mentioned something about about 2023. So he could be actually right on the mark. So I don't know, like I said, it's anybody's guess. And the next thing I was getting on about was the new studio that ZeniMax Bethesda has opened up, and there's some people that are speculating that there's a possibility it's a new MMO that they could be working on in the same vein as like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76. So I was asking everybody as to their thoughts as to what they what kind of game it could be. Could it be another MMO? Could it be another open world RPG? Or could it be another shooter like, say, like Wolfenstein and Doom or Prey?
That's a good question. Well, you know what? To be quite honest with you, at this stage, I think. Well, hold on, because if this is supposed to be a new studio coming from Bethesda, it's like a part of me would say that people would give it the benefit of the doubt and see what they would, do with whatever particular idea for IP, be if it's new or maybe pre-existing. But at the same time, I think because the way Bethesda has moved in their ways, since Fallout 70, 70, wait a minute, 77 or 76? 76.
76.
I think because I'm pretty sure there are people who are still playing it, but because of how it initially came out, it left a bad taste in people's mouths, not just specifically with the game, but also with Bethesda. And again, people can have their own personal gripes about Bethesda, even beforehand. So I think that depending on the direction they might be going, like say for instance, now we know that Microsoft has Bethesda. You never know how the management might turn around going in the future. You never quite know. So it is possible that there might be certain changes that might go in the background with Bethesda that could possibly make it for the better or for the worse. It's like a toss, a coin, a ton, a ton. Hold on, I gotta be calm. Let me be calm. A coin toss in the air, and we ultimately have to come to terms that wherever side of the coin it falls on, we have to deal with it. Now, we might be in a unique situation where when it falls, it's for whatever reason, it's going to be just straight in the middle. And it's like, well, I guess we're going to have to toss it up again and just wait till it finally falls on heads or tails. And we just have to deal with what comes afterwards. Now, in terms of what they would do, I mean, I would say it just depends on who is the makeup of that studio, where their personal background comes from. Have they worked before? Are they new? Have they been in specific what is it? How they come from, certain studios. What's their personal experience? What's their ideas to invoke into this game, whatever it may be. So again, we'll have to see. But I would definitely look forward to seeing, from a creative standpoint, what would they put out? Because you never know. It may be, just crossing fingers, it may be the next generation defining game for the next generation. You just never know. But you have to give, I say this, it would not be, I don't want to say this because I know we have someone who joined us, so I don't want to keep them waiting for too long. But I would say this at this stage, I think that mm, for the most part, I think we are in a position where we can give some level of grace towards Bethesda, specifically where this new studio is going to be made up and how they may carry themselves. Now, how much each individual can give that grace towards Bethesda or say this new studio coming up, I mean, each to their own. But for me, I'll say that I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt for me personally. And also, y'all, please, I know you can see my chest hair. Okay, look. And I know the mess is kind of covering up a little bit, but when it goes away, you're going to see my chest hair. So look, if you want to roast me a little bit about my chest hair, you go ahead. I have no problem with it. Let the jokes fly, okay? But just know, I got the Squirtle Squad on deck. I got them in the context. Trust me. If you go a little too far with it, they're gonna pull up on you. I'm not playing. I'm not playing these games. I know where they at. They know where you at. They will find you. They will let me know. They will give me the confirmation. We're gonna go ahead. But anyhow,
Yeah, you
I
talking
have
about
my thoughts on that.
you talking about roasting, man. You don't need to be near no open flame, man.
Okay.
Hey, I had to get it in. I'm sorry. We got the four now. Um, I know you just popped in and everything. ODT Reaper, dude, thanks for joining us, and you too, Hebot.
Oh, okay, cool. Hey, what's up, guys? Sorry, I was sleeping, so I just caught the message, and then I had a little tech difficulties, and then boom, just popped on my desktop.
Man, dude, you sleeping?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh man, I
I
know.
checked my phone. I just checked my phone. I saw you send me the invite, so I was like, damn, gotta get on my wonderful computer.
Oh man, but
Um,
Hebot, dude, man, glad you can make it.
that's a
Yo,
nice,
Hebot.
that's a new, nice new avatar he bought.
Okay, he must he must have stepped away. But yeah, sorry about that, Nelson.
No, I'm
Uh
here. I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? You guys can hear
oh,
me?
okay, yeah, okay, yeah, now we hear you, man.
Oh, okay. No, I said no. The pleasure's all mine being here. It's just that I'm always running around, moving, so it's kind of hard for me to always come in. But you've been reaching out for me, and I've been like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I haven't been able to at least stop by. So I'm like, I'm home. I'm like, yeah, I gotta stop by. I gotta help out my brother fire boss, because I'm not like that, man. You know how it is. It's just
Oh, dude.
I'm just busy a lot. I'm always on the road. And a lot of times when you're on the road and you try to do the show, it's hard because it cuts off, and then it sounds like shit. And I don't want to make your show sound like shit. You get what I'm saying? You know how it is. So it is what it is. But I'm glad to be here, man. Yeah, what's up? Hopefully we talk about. I'm in time to talk about whatever topic's going down.
Man, dude, Hebot, it's dude. Anytime you can make it, dude, it's always a blessing whenever you can make it, man.
Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Same here. You know how it is, man. Mi casa es tu casa. That's how it is in the Hebot world. You see what I'm saying?
For real, man, guys, for those of you who have tuned in and watch this and don't know who this is, Hebot along with Sega Man are one of the most well versed gaming historians that I have personally known since I
Oh, thank
started
you.
doing this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So if you really, I mean, you really want to get, like deep down into the mud as to like, the history with gaming, definitely check this guy out. And it goes beyond gaming. He's also knowledgeable about toys, especially toys from the past. Um, I'm hoping to be able to work since I got him here. I'm hoping to be able to work more with him, side by side about talking about like I want to like talk about like old school stuff like back in the day, like when we was growing up through the 80s and everything,
Right, right.
and stuff like that. But yeah, but I ain't gonna derail the chat with about that for
Mhm.
much longer. But yeah, but I'm gonna keep it in order. But going with ODT, um, the news. All right, you heard the news regarding this new studio, Bethesda and ZeniMax, opened up. And they're working on this brand new AAA
Are you talking
game.
about? Are we talking about Starfield? Is that what we're talking about?
Oh no, it's supposedly a completely new game, but some people are kind of speculating that it's probably going to be another ZeniMax Online type of title, like Fallout 76 or Elder Scrolls Online. But me personally, I'm thinking it could be a another open world RPG. And I was asking some folks in the chat if maybe they felt that it could be possibly another shooter, like say Prey or Doom.
Mm. It's possible. I know. I know RPGs is kind of our new focus on MMOs as well, or it could also be the wonderful WoW that is coming into the app form on Xbox Series X going forward.
Oh, okay. If it was possibly another MMO, I mean, just saying. Any ideas as to what they could probably base it off of? Because they already have an MMO based off of Fallout, off the Fallout universe, and one already based off of the Elder Scrolls universe. So, and me personally, I can't see a Doom MMO. So I don't know. I mean, maybe a Prey MMO or Wolfenstein, because I mean, especially Wolfenstein. I mean, it's a pretty deep universe. So I
Yeah.
mean,
Well, I know we're still waiting for the next Wolfenstein to be released. We're still waiting for 3. That young blood was just a DLC.
mm, okay, yeah,
But I put I put my bet on a World of Warcraft reincarnation on console.
well, that'd be pretty interesting. But then again, I mean, isn't Blizzard already kind of working on a World of Warcraft for the Series X and S?
Yeah, but that's just what I was talking about.
Okay, so you're thinking like there's a possibility that Bethesda could be like looking at trying their hand at doing their own, huh?
Yeah, or it could just be their help, you know, monitoring the console creation because we haven't seen WoW on console form before. It takes more than one to think alike.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, it's going to be interesting seeing people trying to play that with a controller. I mean, it's not impossible, but so many people are so used to having like specific key bindings for games like that. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting. But I did hear that I guess there was like an update that allows the Series X to use mouse and keyboard now.
No, it does. Yeah.
Yeah, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue. So, but Hebot, dude, your thoughts on this, man, about this new studio that ZeniMax and Bethesda is opening up. I mean, in your wildest ideas, what do you think they could be working on?
Well, first of all, can you guys hear me? Do I sound okay?
Oh yeah, dude, you're perfect. No echo, no
Uh,
nothing.
awesome, awesome. And who else is in the panel? Because I can't tell.
Okay, yeah. ODT Reaper came in like a few seconds before you did,
Hmm.
and the uh the uh the gentleman who's grooming himself. That is Mr. Nelson, also known as Keep That Bear in Mind, because that's his famous catchphrase. He's he's one member of the Technical Difficulties podcast,
Oh,
and
nice, nice.
yeah, and me along with him and Techstorm, who's the other member, and occasionally Miss Diamond. Um, we've been like kind of doing like a crossover type of podcast thing where I would join
Nice.
them for theirs, and they would pop in for the round table or the weekly wrap.
Okay.
And
Okay.
the one we had Wednesday, the round table we had yesterday. I mean,
Okay.
dude, we was getting into a lot of gaming history stuff, and I was like, man, this would have been perfect for Hebot to pop in.
Okay. Right. 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 Well, I mean, I just want to make sure that I address everybody formally. I don't want to be rude. What's up, my brother T? I
Hey, what
mean,
up?
nice to
I
see
love your
you.
new icon.
Thank you, thank you. It's I try to change it up all the time, and to the gentleman, what's his name again? It's so sorry, Jesus Christ.
Oh,
That's Nelson.
yeah, yeah. I just say Mr. Nelson because
Mr.
saying keep that.
Nelson, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing fine, and also I'm just gonna say this right now for the chat. Yes, I am low key booing myself, and look, because I know, boss. He's a man of color, so to speak. So look, I'm gonna let that pass. Okay, for all those who get ready to make a certain
Oh
joke.
boy, here we
Look,
go.
look, I caught that. So if you want to make the jokes, like I said, I'm gonna let them slide. But you go a little too hard, I got the sporting squad. Just so you know, they will pull up on you.
When they
I
come
got
up,
their numbers.
when they
Okay.
come back to haunt you, right?
Yes,
I'm
sir. So
I'm
just let
not
the
as
chat know.
I'm not as
Okay.
I'm not I'm not as brave. I'm not as brave as you, man. To turn on my camera. I don't want. I don't want nobody to see my hideous mug. Like,
No, God, stop it.
my
Stop that. Listen, we're all
my
individual
face.
people. It is what it
No.
is. So listen, first of all, I didn't, to be honest, I didn't hear about it. I guess it's probably something that came out either between yesterday or today, right? I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I mean, the obvious would be, well, they're going to dive into one of their existing IPs and try to tackle it in MMO style. But as you pointed out, they've already done, several of their IPs. And then you're thinking, Star Citizen is not really something that's established yet. So I don't know if they'll go that route until the actual world and universe is actually more familiar with the gamers and the gaming community, right? Not to throw too much at them at once and get them kind of confused with lore and backstory and things of that nature. What if, because you said, think like in my wildest dreams, what if maybe they're doing something that Microsoft had, like a Halo MMO, since they never tackled that? I mean, it's possible. It would be interesting because it would be a different take on Halo, an opportunity to expand the universe and the world and the story for those who don't read the novels and the books in a lot deeper, uh, interactive digital way. Obviously, because
Hmm.
video games is more interactive, as we all know, and it's a lot easier for people to pick up a controller to play and interact as a fun way of doing it, as an approach, than it is for people to sit down and read a book. I'm just keeping it real. A lot of people don't really like sitting down reading books because they find them boring or whatever the case may be, unless it's something of a source that they really, really deeply enjoy, like a comic book or something like that, or a graphic
Some,
novel or anime novel, or whatever.
yeah.
But
Somewhere LeVar Burton is crying inside.
you know what I mean. But so
Yeah.
I if I had to take a wild, unethical type of thought process or approach, I mean, I would say maybe something like Halo, or even I don't know, maybe it's one of their older IPs that they haven't done in a while, like a Fable MMO, something like that. I mean, the sky's the limit. See, the beauty of buying and owning so many developers, right, is options. That's the beauty of having a lot of developers. And this is the whole reason why Microsoft said they were going to invest so heavily, because they were lacking in the developer internal aspect of Microsoft as a division and a brand. They didn't have enough internal intellect, developers to make enough games for them, and that's one of the reasons why it hurt them long term towards this generation with AAA style games. They still had games and delivered, but they were more on a smaller scale, even though they were still quality, because of the fact that they didn't have enough studios to back that up, right? And that's why they made that approach. They bought so many studios and buying ZeniMax right off the hip. What they got, like 7, 9 studios all at once. Uh, this definitely opens the door and the gateway for so many more opportunities, so many more different games. Plus, gives them an opportunity to fill up, the Game Pass area for them as well. Because remember, Game Pass needs to keep getting filled because they got to keep paying out people. If you saw that big article that The Verge did with Phil, all the things that he spoke about as far as detail, how Game Pass work. In some cases, they fully fund the game and still allow them to bring it to other consoles. You see what I'm trying to say? So, of course, developers are jumping into it and coming and joining because it's a win-win for everybody, right? But at the same time, it almost feels like they're using Microsoft for their benefit and then give them the middle finger by going somewhere else where they haven't been helped. You see what I'm saying? So, and I get it, especially from the independent standpoint. A lot of independent developers are up and coming. They need the help. But I wish kind of that same mentality that a lot of developers have with PlayStation, for example, or even Nintendo, when they put their game there, that their mindset is, oh no, we're leaving it here because they gave us an opportunity and we're going to stay right here. I wish some of that loyalty mentality stayed with some of the people with Xbox, even though I don't think it bothers Microsoft, but for the fact of it being principle, right? Versus, principle versus, the fact that, oh yeah, well, we're going to put it there because they don't have a problem with it. Of course they don't. But principle sometimes is just as valuable, right, as allowing everybody else to play, right? Especially due to circumstances. Right. Like with me, if it's a contract where they came and put it in on Xbox and it's a limited time and they got a little payment, okay. But when Microsoft fully funds something, they fully fund it. I really think that there should be like a bracket where it says, okay, we're going to fully fund it, but there has to be some terms in place where you can't do certain things because how are we going to put out the money? Everybody else benefits, and then the other companies that don't do nothing also benefit. Meanwhile, they stay stuck with their stuff and it stays there. We can't even have it. You see what I'm trying to say? But you see how Nintendo, they've gotten characters from Xbox on their Super Mario, on the Smash Brothers. Microsoft allowed, Ori there. They allowed Cuphead there. And what have we gotten back from Nintendo? Nothing.
That's actually something I was wanting to discuss at one time. It was like a long time back when I first joined you guys. You Sticker Man and E-Rock on his podcast and stuff, because I wanted to bring that up as well. And stuff like that, because it would have been nice if, say, like, while the updates were still flowing for Killer Instinct, it would have been cool to see, say, like Link or Samus come to Killer Instinct.
Right, and they could have put it in a more mature way where he looks more mature because it's on an Xbox console. Exactly. Right.
Yeah, I mean, dude, that would have been lit.
Yeah, would have been nice. Absolutely, would have been hella nice. Of course. Yeah. They did it with the Battletoads. You saw how Rash looked more adult, and it worked. It worked perfectly. So, that's my standpoint from it. The beauty of it, though, is that because they have so much options now, they're going to try a lot of different things and take a lot more risk, obviously. And I think Phil has been pretty vocal and candid about it. He's been saying, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I think he's a man of his word. It's just that's going to take time. It's going to take a lot of time because they're just starting basically from scratch, and they're laying down, their foundations and how they want things to go, what direction they want this to happen, I mean, I saw an article today saying that it's possible that we're going to see the next Forza Horizon next year before Motorsport.
Oh yeah, dude, that was one of my topics too. Oh yeah, dude, dude, no, this is good. Speaking to it, because it was a topic before I got into the Bethesda thing. So please do give us your thoughts, man.
Well, because what I'm trying to say is, this just shows how dedicated they are in making the highest quality games possible, utilizing the Series X. Turn 10 said from the scratch, they were going to build the game all over again with using the power straight up. No shortcuts, no different directions, no utilizing old assets, nothing. All from scratch.
Yeah, they were building Forza tech.
another like Forza Tech 2 kind of. It seems like, which this is it's good because it shows that once we see the next Forza Motorsport, it's going to be something to behold. It's going to probably change the game of how we look at simulators. You see what I'm trying to say? So it's a good thing, and then on top of that, Forza Horizon, they have kind of like the advantage and ahead of us because remember that not only are they working on Fable, or they haven't been working on Fable for a while now with the Series X, technology in mind, but they also did the upgrade for Forza Horizon. Now we're getting it in 4K ultra settings in 60 frames. So now they already got their kind of like their hands in the mustard a little bit in the mix with the dev kits, the architecture. So that's why I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if it did happen because I wouldn't be surprised if it happened because it makes more sense. Playground games have had a lot more hands-on with what Series X is doing or capable of than Turn 10. Turn 10 has been quiet and they starting from scratch. And I think a lot of it has to do because they want to really deliver and change the game the way they did in 360 with Forza 4 when people were praising them to show that they haven't gotten stagnant, right? So they don't become like polyphony, that they feel the same and they don't feel like they're really doing much and yet they're still cashing in on their fan base or on their consumers, right? So I applaud them for it. It's going to be exciting to see what new destination it is. If it's going to be Japan, if it's going to be Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, for Christ's sake, wherever. Well, the point is, it'll be nice to see what direction they take it in, and what they're going to add new, and obviously what they're going to do with the Series X, because it's going to obviously utilize the Series X probably to a lot more than obviously we're seeing now with the update with Forza Horizon 4. So that's pretty interesting. It's kind of unexpected because usually we see a Forza Horizon, Motorsport before it, but I understand because they're trying to use that new tech like no one else, and they always like to move the bar. Like in every new generation with every new console, they always like to set the bar and a new standards with their racing games, with the Sims, right, with Forza Motorsport. So it kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? So yeah. I'm surprised. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens. Hello,
Yeah. No, I
you
can
heard
hear.
me?
No, I can hear. I
Yeah,
heard.
I think he
Yeah.
had. I think
Yeah.
he boss is muted.
Oh, he muted. I
Oh no,
didn't
no, no.
see
I'm
that.
no, no.
Oh,
I'm still here. I had to speak to my family real quick.
no, no worries, no worries. I just want to make sure I didn't cut off.
Oh no.
So yeah, so I'm excited for it. Like I said, I'm excited, and it's gonna be interesting to see if it does happen, and if it does, what's gonna happen, and how really impressive is Forza Motorsport gonna be this time around. Like I said, they like to push the technology forward. They always have with every generation. So I'm excited to see what they're gonna do for sure.
It's definitely turning out to be an interesting start to the generation. I'll give Microsoft that.
Right, right, yeah. Even with the whole debacle with the dev kits, like you saw that they're having issues with certain multi plants and that are actually performing better on the PlayStation because they're using already hardware that is more well known that we're already accustomed to. It's not really a different change and leap from PS4 to PS5. It's upgraded for sure, but not a big drastic enough change with enough customary parts in the way that Microsoft approached with the Series X, right? With true RDNA in a console, like DirectX 12 Ultimate in a console, dedicated, accelerated, what you call it, HDR and ray tracing, right? Which is built in the actual silicone. All these things are something that takes time to learn, and if that was the source that was given out that they finally got the finalized versions of him because they were on the contract with NDAs with AMD, and it was in June, late June. Then it makes perfect sense because the launch was what, November. So you figure That's about a 5, maybe 4 month window. That's not enough time for developers to actually get the handle of the dev kits to be able to really dive in and utilize all the assets. You understand?
Yep.
Especially
Sorry about that, guys.
no. Especially if it's a developer that's like multi-plat developer like Ubisoft, because they're in the outside. Now, the guys that work for Microsoft that are internal, they obviously going to know everything because they don't have to hide anything because they work for Microsoft. They can know all the bells and whistles, what's going on. They have access to it before anybody else because the outside guys they can't really say nothing because the other thing is if they would have handled them those dev kits, then they could have got leaked out of all the specs and they under NDA with NDA with AMD, then that makes a big problem, especially lawsuits, possibility of getting sued themselves. So I understand why those dev kits weren't ready. You know, or mature.
Yeah.
That's what they call it, mature dev kits.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff was coming in hot, because they really wanted to wait for the full RDNA 2 stuff.
Yeah, they had to because of AMD. They had to.
Yep. So, because like I tell a lot of people, it's like if I said, you ever give it any thought when the moment AMD finally unveiled their 6000 series cards, that all of a sudden we started getting all this news from Microsoft, and then
All
for
the
the
info.
first time ever, we finally got to see ray tracing.
Yeah. All the info was leaked out and what it was. Yeah.
Yep. And matter of fact, while we're on it, um, what are you guys' thoughts about the this onrush of patches we're starting to see come for Assassin's Creed Valhalla for the to fix the performance issues that everybody's been squawking about with the Series X versus the PS5? Start off with you, Nelson.
I mean, at this point, I think at this point it goes without saying that we don't live in the era of video games coming to the shelf, being bought from the shelf, being taken home, put into the game system, and it just works. You have to go through no update. You don't have to go through any kind of foolishness. You ain't got to go through no kind of heartache or anything like that. It just works. And I do keep that bear in mind. There you go, because I did miss that in the last podcast. So y'all, I apologize for that. Okay, so trust me, I'm a double down on it. All right, trust me, I got you this time.
All right, please
But
do.
with the acknowledgement that of course as technology is progressing, we are going to run into more issues, especially as they're scaling up. Because here's the thing: how many glitches can you really have with, let's say, and I'm just talking about, and I'm not saying no one does 8-bit games anymore, but it's like if you think about back then, how much room for error was that really in comparison to today? If you really think about it. And by all means, Ebox, since he is a very knowledgeable person in regards to the, gaming history, he could probably back me up on this by all means if he wants to. But again, y'all, you can look up the videos about, like, think about, like, for instance, if you think about like Nintendo, I use a Nintendo for a perfect example. If you think about Nintendo, you look at Mario. The thing is, if you look back to Mario, how often times have you ever heard? And I'm not saying it does not exist, but how often times do you hear about Mario from every entry since the beginning ever having a major issue to where they've had to do several updates to make it a viable game at all? And I guess again, I'm not saying they never exist, but how often do you hear, or is it covered in media?
Well, it's almost non-existent, but there's reasons for that. Because
Right.
obviously, number one, they have a lot of experience with the same IP. It never really changes other than either 3D or 2D or graphical tweaks. But with that being said,
Hmm.
um, the Mario franchise and world is always a world where it's very simplified. It's not very geometrically complex, right?
Right.
You don't have realistic looking graphics. You don't have you know realistic NPCs. You don't have realistic cars, weather system, real light, real time lighting. Ray trace, all that stuff that you have in bigger games. So even if they did a Mario now, in the standard that they do it with it on something like the Series X, you're gonna get nice bells and whistles and looks, but it's not something that's really demanding to the processor or the hardware itself, right? So to speak, to the GPU and the CPU. But I think that's part of the reason why it's been non-existent, because they kept it as simple as possible with a little bit of tweaks, and that's why you never see that. But at the same time, back then there was limitations with hardware. I mean, we talk about hardwares that were, you know, kind of like that when you run it now on the Series X, for example, you try to run a game of Super Nintendo or 64 on a Series X, it's like it's spitting on it. You see what I'm trying to say? It's by comparison. There's no way that it's even going to push anything off the console to make it run better. You see what I'm trying to say? So the standards of the games were always based off hardware. Like, I know what you're trying to say. You're saying that that even back then the games weren't as complex as now, so we didn't see these type of bugs and stuff like that. But that's why I always say, that's why a lot of times I say to people that the problem with making more powerful consoles, right? And I don't know if you're going to agree with me or not. You can disagree with me. That's understandable. That's fine. But I've always said the reason why they face issues because one, they get too ambitious, and the more power they have, the more ambitious they get, and they have to learn how to figure out a balance of okay, we're gonna do it open world, but how much we can do it. Let's not do it too big, and let's make sure that we concentrate on adding more NPCs, more boss battles, more different gameplay mechanic styles, like getting on vehicles, getting on turrets, whatever. To give you to change the gameplay from 2D to isometric to 3D, to give you variations to make the gameplay stay fresh, to make the gameplay stay fun and not feel tedious and stale as you're going along. Instead of doing 35 million side quests that is basically the same thing but in a different manner or a different look or from a different person, that gets boring ultimately. Make it where the gameplay changes, it shifts from different gameplay styles, and and you can add more detail to the world, you can add more graphical fidelity, you can add more different weapon variations, moves, magic powers, whatever. If
Don't
you
forget
keep it
don't forget the role play elements like
right,
the stat adjustments and
right,
all that.
plus the
That's a
role
loop.
play
That's a
element.
loop in itself.
Right. All that stuff takes a lot of resources. So if they keep it within reason, I don't think we would see that many bugs all the time with the newer games. But the problem is they go and say, okay, the next Assassin's Creed, we're going to do it even bigger than the next one. You see what I'm trying to say? Instead of saying, okay, we already did it big enough, let's keep it that size. Now let's just add meat to the map, right? Or to the world. Let's add that meat. Let's add those different gameplay styles. Let's add more boss battles. Let's add more cinematic. Let's add more story. Let's add more RPG elements. A nice move set, like when you're doing different moves, each weapon does different moves. Each fighting style does different fighting sets, even for each character. All that stuff is resource heavy, and I really think the problem is the more power you offer developers, the crazier their mind goes. Like, oh wait, let's do this world 5 times bigger than the last one. And that's where the problem comes in, because all this stuff has to process and it has to compute with the speed of the bandwidth, and it has to be all in real time. That's why we usually get these open world games where you got pop-ups, or where you see a little bit of NPCs, or where you see less gameplay mechanics and variation, right? Or you see less boss battles, or you see less cinematic moments, or you see less story in the game. And all it is it becomes of you walking around, hunting down, doing quests, and then you do some of the main quests, and that's it. You see what I'm trying to say? And it doesn't feel different enough. Even the way the world looks, you'll see like a lot of times, okay, it looks a little bit different because they had a little bit of house here or different buildings here. But for the most part, it's a rock, it's rocks, it's a lake, it's grass, it's trees, and that's pretty much the standard of it, right? That's why I also said it's a nice combination when you do open world style areas mixed with linear style levels. Because when you have linear style levels, which Nintendo does that a lot, it gives you it makes you feel like you're in different worlds all the time. You see what I'm trying to say?
Right, and I agree with you definitely. And what you just said, you just put it so beautifully, and I really mean that because
Oh, thank you, thank you.
yes, sir. And to add on to what you just said, what I
Mm-hmm.
interesting, I wanted your thoughts on this too, because you brought up something that I don't think a lot of people, let's just say in the marketplace or those who consume the marketplace, maybe don't take into consideration is that
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
as every generation goes forth, yes, we are more in a position to have all that power, right? In terms of what can we
Mm-hmm.
build from it.
Right, right. I'm
But
following
I
you.
think that sometimes we might have a misunderstanding of what the market is demanding versus the, let's say, the sellers who are selling what's on the market
Right,
are
right.
trying to put out. Like for instance, I'll use this quick analogy real quick off the
Go
top of
ahead,
my
go
head.
ahead.
Actually, I use it a lot of times. So essentially it's like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you have an Apple stand at every corner in your city, at the end of the day, no one's forcing you to consume that apple. No one. It's good to have an apple, but
Yeah,
you have plenty of fruit at your disposal that you can choose. Now, here's
yeah.
the thing: you have to sit back and think to yourself, wait a minute, is there really a demand for apples, or is someone forcing us to have apples,
Right, I
pushing
got
them
you.
onto us?
Right, right,
And
right.
so the thing is this: I'm nothing against like okay, going back to Assassin's Creed. I love
Mm-hmm.
Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed is one of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite franchises.
Okay.
But I saw that as they were getting more ambitious, which I'm not against them having, but
Yeah,
it
yeah.
got to a point where, and I'm gonna snag a little bit of something from the from technical difficulties podcast in comparison, because I brought this up over there, and I'll bring it over here. And again,
No,
to
no problem.
use
Yeah,
Dragon
yeah.
Ball
Go
Z
ahead.
terms,
Okay.
if you look at Ubisoft or Ubisoft, how
Mm-hmm.
you want to say their name,
Right, right.
if I had to compare them to a certain character within the DBZ universe, I would say they're Gohan. And the reason I say they're Gohan is because, and again, y'all can fight me if you want to. I have no problem with that. We can go back and forth on that. But if you feel like someone else would sub that title, and the thing is, I don't say that in the realm of being insulting, because don't get twisted. Gohan's my favorite character. But when I
Right,
speak
I
of
got you.
when I make that comparison, the reason I do it is because Marco, I was not Microsoft, excuse me, but Ubisoft has a lot of great potential. It has a lot of great IPs that's come from their doors.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is this: they get to a point where, say, like you just said before, Hebot, it's like you get too arrogant or you become too engrossed with the creativeness, and it's like you need to tame yourself. You need to pull back for a moment and realize your limitations. There's nothing wrong to push the boundaries of
Mm-hmm.
what's provided to you, but here's the thing. Again, you have to remind yourself that this is a product. Yes, from an artiste standpoint, yes, this is your creation.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, do you want to push the boundaries to see what you can bring into the world? But here's the thing. At the end of the day, me as a consumer, my first impression of the game, if it breaks, or let's say if it has so many glitches, it's like some people are willing to be tolerant of that. And I'm
Right,
willing to be
right.
someone who can tolerate the certain things. But the thing
Well,
is this: if
usually us, the hardcore gamer, we usually are tolerant because we understand what comes with it, right? But you're
right,
talking about from the casual perspective, somebody coming in, they're not going to be as tolerant. They're like, "Yo, why is this broken? I just paid $60 for it." I get exactly what you're saying, right? Go ahead.
yes. And the thing is, like, again, going back to the beginning of Assassin's Creed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the funny thing is, just to give y'all some context, what I started in the franchise was from Assassin's Creed 2, going into Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and my brother
Mm-hmm.
bought me Assassin's Creed, the first one, and I played
Right,
that.
right.
And the thing
Mm-hmm.
was, Assassin's Creed 2 caught my attention with not just the premise of the story or the concept of what the franchise is built off of, but also how they executed it, how they
Mm-hmm.
expand on that going into Brotherhood, which I would definitely say between Brotherhood and Revelations is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite AC game,
Well,
period.
Revelations, they did a lot of things that was wonderful that they never went back to. So I know exactly what you're saying.
Yes, and
I,
that's the thing
I'll
that
add to
annoys me.
once you're done. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Not so just to finish, getting close to finishing my thoughts on it is the issue that comes to me about Ubisoft in this context is from Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
they had Assassin's Creed 3, which now look, I understand people feel certain type of way about Assassin's Creed 3, and I understand that, but I will not lie and say that that's not a game that holds a special place in my heart because not just how they did the character Connor, which again you may enjoy, you may not have enjoyed it, but just how
Mm-hmm.
they took a character like him and took the concept of the homestead and made it feel so like a personal journey. Like you felt like you understood as time went on. You weren't just focused on being an assassin. You were also focusing on building a community, which is
Mm-hmm.
was something that made it more personal in terms of how you developed your own intake of the story. Not the story
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but more well to an extent also with the assassins. But
Mm-hmm.
now here's the thing: when you moved past three, you had Black Flag, and that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't a bad game, but it was like this is moving a little too far from what the core root of where Assassin's Creed started.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, okay, if you want to start a new direction, that's not bad. Let's see where you go with it. After that, we went into what was after Black Flag? Was it Unity?
Yes,
Um,
Unity, and then they had the one where they were in the era of Jack the Ripper. Holy crap!
Huh? Right. That no. Wait. Was it?
Syndicate,
Was
Syndicate,
yeah? I
Syndicate,
know it's Syndicate, but there's
Unity,
another one.
Syndicate, and then Odyssey.
Hold on. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one.
there's
Rogue.
there's
Rogue.
one
Rogue. That's what I was trying to say.
there's one
Ro-
took place during the Revolutionary War.
uh-huh.
Oh, you
Rogue
talking about
and it's
it's
another
Rogue
one.
and Black Flag, and
Uh-huh.
you talking about the one with the George Washington era?
Yeah.
Not the DLC
I thought
one, but it was
I,
it's another one. I can't recall the name of it, but
my son
it's
is
you
the
know they have
expert
those
in
spin-offs.
that. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. They had the one for
Right.
PS3 that came out too.
Yeah, that's the one I'm talking about. I'm thinking, but I can't think of the name. But overall, what I'm getting at is this: with the franchise, I understand their ambition to want to try new things and try to revamp the series to give it new life, and I'm not opposed to that. But when you move so far from what the core principle of what, because here's the thing, it's nothing wrong. Like say, if you took Odyssey, and I never played Odyssey, but I'm not opposed to anyone who wants to play it. But from my understanding, Odyssey and Valhalla is essentially trying to build up more of the world, which isn't bad. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is this, you start to lose the context of what a main story is. Again, like
I
I
got you.
understand how people don't feel that connected. And now again, no, subjectively speaking, but from an objective standpoint, I understand why some folks may not take with certain new entries because it's like, look,
Mm-hmm.
we understood why we had Altair, we understood why we had Connor, we understood why we had Ezio, we understood why we had Desmond. We well, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna spoil anything on that point, but
Mm-hmm.
you understood why these connector characters were all connected. You
Yeah, yeah.
understood
You're
a
ba-
vocal point they were going. But
you're
now here's the thing: you really don't know at this point. It's like you
yeah, yeah.
honestly, it's almost like
Your problem with what they're doing, right? And correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah.
Is
Go ahead,
that
sir.
is that they established a core foundation
Hey,
not
I'll be
only
right
for
back,
this,
guys.
Mm,
no problem, not only for the story, but for the world, right? And then
yes.
even though you don't mind changes to try something different, they basically went completely off route, and now it feels like there's too many different, uh, you know, plot points where it feels like it's all over the place instead of feeling more coherent, right?
Yes, and not
I know
just
what you're saying.
specifically in the realm of the story, but just again, like you just brought up before about just the world building and what have you. Like,
World,
I'm not against, like, for instance, I love the fact that you can experience all these different cultures from these different different places within time or within
yeah.
history. I love that. I have nothing against that. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing, like you just said before, Hebot, it's nothing wrong with having an open world, but also it's nothing wrong to want to scale it down a bit to make it more manageable and make it more polishable.
Right. So you can have a more
Because
connection,
again,
a bigger, a better connection with the world. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
right.
I
And
get
I
what
don't
you're saying.
think anyone at this point, because let's just be honest, I think at this point, and y'all gentlemen can borrow me, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think generally speaking, we're a lot of us, I'm not gonna say we're plump ass tired of open world games, but it's just the scale in which people are wanting to reach. It's like why do you have to reach so far? Like
I got you. Look,
it's like we at a
it's like
height. Now go
Mhm.
ahead, sir. Go
No,
ahead.
no, 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 no. Finish your thought. I don't want to interrupt. Just finish what you were gonna say. Go ahead.
Well, what I was gonna say is this. Again, it's nothing wrong wanting to reach new heights. But
Right.
here's the thing, you gotta give the rest of us a bit of a break, or we going to burn out. And when we
I
burn
got you.
out, our what's the word I used before? Our willingness to be tolerable is going to
Yes.
shorten as time
Yeah.
progresses. Now,
Yeah.
here's the
Well.
thing: can
Mhm.
they, like, again, be the apple? Can they force feed us or force us into consuming this particular product over and over until we get used to it?
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes, they could, but the other side of that is this. Some people are going to start to get tired of eating apples. Some people are going to get to a point where it's like, you know what? Why don't we just ban apples altogether? There's plenty of other fruits we consume. We don't have to consume apples. And that's the thing I don't want for Ubisoft. I want Ubisoft to be here for a long time. I really do. But the thing
Mhm.
is this, if people are giving you the feedback to make your games, and here's the thing, I'm not a game developer. I'm going to give you that. But my intentions with your company, with not just specifically your company, but your studio, with the people who have this creative vision, I want them to thrive. But here's the
Mhm.
thing: you got to, you gotta have some self control. You got to pull back some. And granted, hold up, because I will say this too, because it may not even necessarily be the developers. It could also be the investors. Because let's be fair, it's not on just
Mhm.
one particular individual or one particular
Mhm.
body.
I'm
Okay,
gonna answer
so be
that
fair
too. I'm
on
gonna
that.
answer that. I'm gonna answer that
But go
point too that you just said.
Yes, sir. But I'll finish my thoughts on that because I won't go too much over a ramble.
Right. Well, look, it's what you're saying. It makes a lot of. I completely get what you're saying, and a lot of people are gonna call me crazy right now. Okay, please hear me out. If what I've been saying is one of the biggest problems Ubisoft has had in the last couple of years is formula, execution, like you said earlier. They've been trying to do all these different IPs with different worlds, different characters, but not only do they change it and go into different areas too fast after they world build, right, without even
Yeah.
finalizing whatever they established, but a lot of their game formulas have felt the same execution and style of gameplay and structure. Like Watch Dogs feels very a lot like the way they try to do with Assassin's Creed, right? A lot of their games feel like they're just trying to be open world games with a lot of fetch quests and forgotten really the magic of what they started. With Watch Dogs, a perfect example. The first game with Aiden Pierce was actually an awesome game. They started a really nice direction with a really nice story and established a character that was interesting that you actually learned to like. And then with Watch Dogs 2 and 3, they went to a completely different direction where it feels like a completely different game. And even though he's mentioned, he was put to the wayside. And I guess that's what you're saying. I get what you're saying when you feel that that's felony. They feel like their arrogance kind of kicks in because they don't respect when people adapt to the world and the lore and they want more of that and they want it to be expanded. And instead, they go and start something else in different directions, even though you appreciate the idea of them taking risk and adding new places with historical things because it is based on time travel to us, with the Artemis, right? Which I
Mhm.
understand. So I've been saying this for a while. Like, their problem is that they're trying, like it's like the microtransaction shit that everybody's trying to copy, doing some type of microtransaction. And I get it. It's to help the developers because not everybody goes and buys the game. Not every game sells as well as others. Not every game
Mhm.
costs as much as the other, and not every game is guaranteed to do well, period, in the first place, right? So
Mhm.
they have to figure out ways to let them make some money as developers because
Right.
then they'll close down. But the problem also then comes with that, though, that it becomes like anti-consumer because then you have cheaters. Then people feel like they're being slated because they already paid $80 for the special edition and now they have to pay another 40 or 30 additional on top of that to get other things, So it's like a double-edged sword. That's why I said sometimes it's better to use the same style and technique that's already been there and combine it with existing ideas, right? And not
Mhm.
overdo them. That's why I feel that the way they executed Gears 5 was brilliant because Gears 5 has a little bit of everything that goes on now, but still keeps respect and keeps the core to the existing old school style of gameplay and approach. They added level based,
with open world. You got micros that don't give you too much advantages that you can either earn or buy. You see what I'm trying to say? And they kind of gave you everything that they offered as far as DLC for free. They haven't charged you a dime. And that thing, and I guess, and I feel that works perfect, and it worked well for them, and it will work well for other companies. But then you hit another valid point. The problem is somebody like Microsoft can keep control of their developers and tell them, look, you can do this, you can do that, and keep everything consumer friendly, respecting the you know the fan base, right? But at the same time, then you got a situation like Halo Infinite, where I feel that the reason Halo Infinite is having so much conflict and problems right now with development is because they got so afraid of the fan base with the complaints of Halo 5 that they don't know what direction to take without hurting them, pissing them off, and getting backlash. Because it's like they're damned if they do, or they're damned if they don't. But then the other point that you hit as well on top of that, because you had a really long-winded explanation, which made perfect sense, is that you have investors. When it comes to different companies like Ubisoft, they also have investors. And these investors are going to want them to go and do what's making them money. Oh, that's what worked. You keep doing that. As long as it makes money, it's kind of like Activision with Call of Duty. What has Activision really done since Call of Duty that's different, that's brilliant, and that's actually original? Nothing. Nothing. They improve the Call of Duty games. They get good. Sometimes they get bad, then they get good again. Fine, but it's still Call of Duty at the end of the day. It's not a new idea. It's not a new IP. It's not a new venture. They don't take risk anymore. And part of that is because of the positioning of gaming how it is today. Because most of the games won't sell if it's a new property. That's why Nintendo keeps making 3,000 Marios, 4,000 Zeldas, 62,000 Metroid Primes. You get what I'm trying to say? And I know I'm being retarded. I know I'm being exaggerated. It's just for context, just so you guys get the idea. That is why they do that. Because taking risks with new IPs, and then these IPs come out, they're freaking phenomenal, and they don't sell well enough to establish or warrant a sequel. Something like, let's say, Quantum Break sold very well, one of the best IPs for Microsoft this generation. But now to make a sequel, you got to spend more because it's got to be bigger, more elaborate. You can't do that without ownership or without knowing you're going to make, 100% guaranteed money. Games like Record, a lot of potential, definitely deserves a sequel. Didn't spend a lot of money, but it didn't sell well enough to warrant a sequel. Rise, same thing. Crytek is afraid to touch it, even though now it's got a cult following. Same thing with Alan Wake. There's a lot of examples on the Microsoft side. A lot of their new IPs that deserve to have done well didn't. And people love them now and want sequels. But they keep asking, when are we going to get it? And they don't get them. Because if they don't make money, it's too high of a risk. But that's the problem with, I think, that's going on with Ubisoft. They want to create new things. They do create new IPs. But the problem is when they create those new IPs, in many cases, the structure of the game is exactly the same. It's either open world, or it's trying to be a mixture of open world RPG. And it doesn't feel very different from each other. But then they do that, and they make the sequels. They end up starting something that's good, and then go in a completely different direction in the next game, like they did with Watch Dogs. And that's something that's no good either, because that turns people off, especially gamers. Once they commit, they like lore. That's why Halo has had a lot of success in the past, because of lore, because it's been consistent. That's why games like, even something like Uncharted, as much as I think it's overrated, that's why people like it and enjoy it, because it's still deep with the lore. And it's, even though I think the fourth one was cheeked out because, they always say he was an orphan, he had a brother out of nowhere, a lot of things that were just thrown in there. You couldn't tell that it was shoehorn and fishhorn in there, and really they didn't know what direction to go with it. But you get what I'm saying. So I completely understand. It's like, Dragon Ball Z. I mean, how many episodes are Dragon Ball Z? Thousands, hundreds? But they've always stayed connected with the core essence of what the material is. And that's why it still has a big fan base, and it's grown even more through the years, because people like and feel comfortable and enjoy when they're sticking with something that's familiar, even though it changes, it takes chances, but that is something that they're familiar with, and they don't feel like, oh my God, I got to start all over because they're going now in this direction. And that's a good point you pointed out. You're very good point. So I think it's a little bit of everything that I said to you, that you said to me. I think it's a combination of maybe arrogance, investors, scared of risk. Uh, but so that's why I think that when I said what I said, we're opening up new generations. We got more power, more ability, more flexibility to do different things that we never been able to do before. So stay within reason. Don't get too
Hmm.
ambitious. Let's go back to the core gameplay, story, lore, and characters, and build from there. And then expand after we finish one arc or another arc that we already started and that people are familiar with. And I think this will
Right.
help tremendously, not only with sales, with commitment from the gamers and commitment from the audience that you're going to find coming in for the first time, even the casuals. Because that's why you think Jordans still sell, because it's something people love. They're committed. They're familiar, but they always make it new, try to make it fresh, and people still enjoy it. That's why things like Coke and Pepsi do well, because it's still what people know. People like familiarity. Okay, and I know it sounded like
Hmm.
crap saying that, but excuse me. But so you have a lot of good points. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I hope you understand where I'm saying and where I came from too. I think you did, because you said it. But in case you didn't, just let me know. And I think it's a little bit of everything, a mixture of what you said and what I said. To be honest with you, and in part, it could be arrogance. It could be arrogance because they keep making all this money, not really putting in a lot of different ideas like they used to, and so they're comfortable. They're complacent. That's the word you were looking for. They're comfortable, complacent, and that's
Hmm.
why they're doing it. Or it could be investors, or it could just what I'm saying. So we don't really know,
Yes.
but I don't want to speak like we know because we're not insiders, and I definitely don't want to act like I'm an insider because I'm not. Because I'll be lying.
Yes,
But it's
sir.
a good speculation and assumption based on historical patterns and historical factions and facts that have happened through the years, even with companies since the Pong era, Atari, television, Odyssey, all that. So yeah. I definitely get what you're saying, but I think that's probably it's probably a little bit of everything of those reasons why um, Ubisoft is in that position. But they, like I said, if they stay within reason and just execute what they do best, I think they'll have more success. To be honest, in my opinion.
Yes, sir. And I completely agree with everything you said, and I get exactly where you're coming from.
I'm
And you
sorry.
know what? I must say this too, real quick, because like I said, I'm gonna finish my thoughts on this point. Is just to expand on what I said before. A great example I do want you guys to check out. If you've never played the series before, I would highly recommend you to do so. It's called Darksiders. And the thing is, Darksiders 1, 2, 3, and they have Genesis out. Each game from the ground up does not play the same. But the world in which it exists is still the same, it's consistent. And to me, the reason I want to give that example real quick is because again, you can have like I'm not saying that it's too late for Assassin's Creed to go back to the golden days. What I
Right.
think is important is that at the end of the day, like we've spoken about before, at the end of the day, every company at the end of the day needs to make its money back. We as again, if you're well aware of this as a consumer, right? Regardless of whatever particular marketplace you put your money towards or your resources towards, you understand that. But I would say this: I think at the end of the day, give me just a moment. I think at the end of the day, mm, there is a balance, like you just said, Hebot, that I think at what point we ought now. The thing is, I'm not saying specifically us as gamers or say the developers or the investors. All of us have to agree to a balance. Again,
Mm-hmm.
like going back to why I want to use that comparison about Gohan. Now, if you've watched Super, and I'm not gonna spoil Super, but I'm just gonna say this. And again, whether if you liked it or not, what they did with Gohan within that series, I think was something that's needed to be done for a long time. That yes, fans have been, and that's, and don't get me started on Nintendo because of the way they carried themselves with fans, making certain, projects. I'm not gonna go into that tangent. I promise y'all. Even though we can have it, but I'm not gonna have it right here. But what I say about this is Gohan had Piccolo. Piccolo knows Gohan. He trained Gohan. Now, yes, Gohan had his father train with him. And yes, does Gohan have a sense of admiration for his father and what he's accomplished? Yes. But when it comes to actually teaching Gohan, training him about what he's capable of doing, you always have to give it to Piccolo. Like, for instance, like, again, I'm not trying to go too much on a tangent, but if you looked at both instances where Gohan was essentially the most powerful character on the show, was with Cell and with Boo. And in both instances, he became arrogant. He became, or let's say he allowed his Saiyan side to take over him. And we've seen how that played out. Now, here's the thing. In Super, he gets back to, no, it's not even him. It's more so Piccolo who brings it up to him that, Gohan, you've had this potential within you. You've had 2 times, he pointed it out. 2 times, you've been the strongest, but what did you do? You got too arrogant. You've allowed yourself to get, start to, sniff your own stench, your stank, so to speak. And what happened? It cost people's lives. And so the thing is this. For me, I'm not saying that I need Gohan, aka Ubisoft, to be on top 24/7. But what I do need Ubisoft, aka Gohan, to do, what I need y'all to do for me is this. I ain't saying you got to be the strongest. I ain't saying you got to be the weakest. I'm saying you got to find your footing and be, let me not say comfortable, but you have to be confident within it. I'll say that. Be confident. Because when you're confident, you know what you're putting out and you know what you were receiving.
Right. It's almost like what you're saying is just stay. Even if you do changes, don't ignore where it started, right?
Yes, sir.
Just and expand on that and combine it with the new with respect and make it work. I get exactly what you're saying. I get exactly what you're saying. If that's what you're saying, and if I'm wrong, please correct me because I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, obviously.
No, sir, you are absolutely on the dollar.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And that's true. I think that's the goal. But again, you hit another valid point. You answered your own question. Is it investors? A lot of times when they say, look, this is what we need to do. And this is why I think Microsoft is in such a good position right now because Phil presented that to Satya in a lot of ways. He said, listen, this is what they like. This is how they like things done. You understand what I'm saying? And again, I'll reference it. This is why now he has the backing because he was able to prove, look, we're going to make money, but we got to treat them with respect. You got to treat the console gamers with the same respect we treat the PC gamers and vice versa. If we don't do that, we're going to lose our audience, and Xbox is going to die. And that's what he did. That's exactly what he did. And people don't understand that, right? It was a restructuring of a company that at one point they admitted were thinking of selling the brand, right? The division, if so to speak. And it's like what you said, probably with the tangent with Nintendo. They say it, they get so much praises, yet they really don't do much difference. And people never call them out on it. Like they act like, oh, they're the greatest thing, but don't really say what they need to be saying. Yes, they have they're pioneers in the industry and they have their place in gaming, but they need to learn how to also expand with the times to make things feel fresh but old but still fresh and new, which I personally don't feel they do that. You see what I'm saying? With the exception, graphical approach, maybe like 3D versus 2D, but other than that, they haven't really expanded anything new. With Splatoon is just like a multiplayer, right? For example. But I think that's what you were trying to say about Nintendo, about you wanted to go into a tangent or whatever. I think that's what you meant, right?
Yes, sir. And real quick, I do want to address a comment I did see, Manuel. Okay, so you want to equate Ubisoft to Mr. Satan trash. Okay, sir. Next time you on the podcast, I'm gonna see about you, sir. Okay, or see me on Twitter. We're gonna battle this on Twitter. Okay, you're gonna see me. But that's all I just wanted to address, sir. But go ahead.
Emmanuel likes Yankee and Chain. That's funny. That's
He's the
funny.
best.
No.
He's the best at what he does.
The best at what he does. No. I mean, I think you put your point, and I think it's very valid. And obviously, like I tell people with myself, I commend you for the fact that you're brave enough to at least be honest. Because the problem with
Hmm.
nowadays, when you're honest and you tell people what they don't want to hear or what they're afraid to say because it's not the norm, it's not what's accepted. Like me saying, I think PlayStation is overrated and I think their games have fallen flat because they have the same palette and they don't really change and give you enough diversity. People call me crazy. People say I'm a hater. People say I'm being toxic. And I'm definitely not doing that because I can explain to you why and I can tell you why one series is better than the other, why it was better then than it is now, because I have my reasons. I don't just say something for the sake of saying it because I want to get attention to myself. I say it because it's what I truly feel based on my history with gaming, right? So if you tell me something, something, I commend you for at least being honest and being brave enough to bring it up, because as Fireboss knows, as T Reaper knows, most of the time when you say what's not the norm against the grain, that makes you automatically you're being toxic. You're just trying to be a hipster. You get what I'm trying to say? Uh,
Yes, sir.
and I don't think that's the way it should be. I think more people should generally say what they feel, speak out on it, because that's what makes gaming special and unique. Because we're all different types of gamers. We all have different feelings and experiences with the gaming industry through the years as we've been playing video games and made it one of our main hobbies. You understand? So your opinion on something could be just as diverse as mine based on your own personal feelings. So I can't just say, "Oh, I'm gonna push it to the side and not respect it." We got to kind of find the balance and try to meet eye to eye and see if we can combine your thoughts and feelings with mine and see where we're coming from to make things better as a whole for everyone. And that's the problem with game today. Today is a lot of yes mans in the gaming industry. Too many yes men,
Hmm.
and I think that's terrible. It's terrible. And I don't. That's why I don't care. If people call me whatever they call me. They don't like me. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to be honest to my consumers, to my fans, to my friends, to my fellow gamers. I'm here to be honest. I'm not here to make friends. Friendship is established by you getting to know the person, not through video game talk. You understand what I'm trying to say? And
And part
people
and
see
Hmm.
part of the factor of it is that is learning to accept
right,
the other person's views, learning
right,
to more or less agree to disagree,
right. Agree to
and
disagree,
that's where the biggest problem is.
and to be honest, just coinciding both thought process. Because if he hits a lot of good points, I'm going to hit a lot of good points. Why not combine them and figure out a way to incorporate all of them? You see what I'm trying to say? As opposed to just saying, "Oh no, this is not. This is the way, and that way is not the way." You don't know what you're talking about. You're a hater. You're stupid. Fuck you, you X swap. Fuck you, you Sony fag boy. Whatever. You get what I'm trying to say? Instead of doing shit like that, let's combine it and find correlations for it to be together, and that it could combine it and find the solution as gamers, right? Because we're the ones who dictate the hobby, because we're the ones who buy it and support it, and we give that feedback to the companies, and then the companies can figure it out, right? The developers, the publishers, and things like that. But that's the problem. And like I said, in today's society, I'm sorry, but there's too many yes men in the gaming industry. Like there's too many people that try to play the neutral card. And I keep telling them, being neutral is one thing, calling out bullshit is another. You see what I'm
Hmm.
trying to say? They're two big, very different things. I could be a neutral, play all consoles for whatever games I enjoy, but I have my preferred brand, right? But I'm not
Hmm.
gonna stop. But I'm not gonna stop not calling out BS, right? If I see it, because then how is that being real? You see what I'm trying to say, Nelson? How is that not being real if I'm a play it off when deep down inside I know there's some bullshit and fuckery going around, excuse my language, and it's not supposed to be that way. You see what I'm saying? And that's the problem. And then when people like me or you speak out and say that, or like Fireboss, or even I've seen it with T Reaper for Christ's sake, and he goes out of the grind and T Reaper says something that everybody else don't like. Oh, you're toxic. You're stupid. You're a retard. You're a dumbass. You're a hater. You don't respect gaming. You're not a real gamer. You don't like gaming. Dude, I've been gaming since before you were born. How are you going to tell me I don't appreciate gaming? It's because I've been doing it so long that I have such an appreciation that I can give you my honest opinion, right?
Yes,
So
sir.
I commend you for that. I really do because I really understood everything you're saying and trying to say, and I think you have a very valid point. I really do. I really do.
Yes, sir. And I do want to make a quick comment before we move on because I don't want to hold up on Reaper because I don't want us to overtake the conversation, sir. I want you to get your 2 cents in. But something that, and I don't know if you've watched the previous, be it the weekly wraps or the Xbox roundtables that me and my other gentleman
Compatriot.
who will be on there,
Okay.
Mr. Techstorm.
I would have
But
to
we've
watch
kind
because
of
I'm
covered this.
behind. I'm behind. I'm behind.
Yes, sir. So something we've covered in the past about this is,
Who's
well,
that?
when I was establishing for the people watching us for the first time, in terms of coming onto this podcast, I told them that ultimately our goal ultimately coming over here isn't to try to do clout chasing or try to gain your following, try to add to ours purely. It's also
Right.
trying to build a establishing of
Networking, like networking
like
together.
networking
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Networking
collaborating
together and
because
collaborating. Absolutely.
because the thing is this, my personal ultimate goal, not just specifically with doing podcasts, but just doing this, is trying to create our own Switzerland, our
Right.
own mutual space
Yeah,
that,
your own space.
again, we as, again, not us just specifically as gamers, but us within the industry, be it from a professional standpoint or from a novice standpoint, regardless of whatever position of life you're in, we can
Mhm.
all have a spot at the table.
Right,
And it's a
right,
round table. We're all
right,
equal.
right.
So we can, of course, you have, and this is an important distinction. I do want to say to uh, he bought too, because this is an
Mhm.
important lesson. I think all of us are not fortunate to have, because let's
Yeah.
say the peers that were are, let's say like this, our a circle of peers are not diverse. A lot of
Mhm.
times when you have people from, let's say my age, because I'm 26,
Okay.
or maybe a little younger,
Okay.
usually we will stick with people who are in our age range.
I got
When it
you.
comes to actually trying to have these kinds of conversations, we don't have people, unfortunately, like you or even boss
Right.
around us in our presence outside the digital space to have these kinds of conversations, to try to have these kinds of solutions. And
Got
if
you.
you don't,
Got you.
unfortunately, have that kind of ability to do so, then I'm not going to say that to, I'm not trying to make excuses for people, but I am trying to
Mhm.
say that I acknowledge, I'm fully aware of your circumstances. So I want to give you that grace, but don't
Got
take my
you.
grace for granted. And so
Got
what
you.
I'll say
Got you.
is, well, first of all, hold up, y'all. Drink some water, stay hydrated.
Mhm.
Okay. But to finish my point on this is, at the end of the day, we have to start somewhere. Someone has to
Yeah.
start it. And the thing is, if
Right.
we
Right.
have the thought, we might as well act upon it. Now,
Right.
here's the thing.
Right.
We may not, like I said before, and I'll say it again, we can start it, and maybe at one point in time, we might have to stop for whatever reason. But if we can
Mhm.
start
Mhm.
something, we can finish it. So
Absolutely.
I'm starting this, and let's say if I'm not the one to finish it, I'm going to encourage the next person to finish it.
Got you. Well, listen, it's well said because a boss and T, you guys know me longer than Nelson, obviously. How long have I been saying? You guys can vouch for me. Me being a root gamer, my responsibility is to pass the torch, but pass the torch over with responsibility. That they get the fundamentals and how hard it was for gaming to get to where it is today, to not take it for granted and respect everyone's thought process, but not to be afraid to speak on it. These guys can tell you. I've been saying this forever because I'm not going to be able to keep doing podcasts and podcasts for at my age, my with my ailments, my responsibilities. The mantle has to be passed, but you hit a very valid point. If it's going to be passed, we got to pass it with understanding and respect to each other's thought process and explanation to start conversation between the young and the old, right? But the problem is now is, like you said, it's basically the young want to speak out in most cases, don't want to listen. And in some cases, the old want to speak out and they don't want to listen. You see what I'm saying? And that's where the problem is. See, I've always been the type of person mindset that I don't mind as long as the person that speaks to me does it with grace, does it with respect, with kindness, being humbled, and actually caring about the hobby, right? Which I get from knowing you the little bit that I've been talking to you at this podcast, that I'm getting from you, that you really care, right? You care about gaming, which is something you don't find a lot anymore with most young kids, with anything, movies, with life, responsibilities, whatever. And that's what makes you stand out. I can honestly tell you that. I saw that with a gentleman named J Long a long time ago. I saw that with Reaper because Reaper was a lot younger than us, and Reaper has always sat there and listened to us and told us his ideas and his feelings, and never once has he ever disrespected any of us, even though he don't get the respect back. You see what I'm trying to say? In many ways, I see it, but that's why I've always never put Reaper to the side. I've always been like, there, and he will always be uh, somebody that I'll make time for, no matter what, as much as I can. Even though I try to do it for everybody, I'm only one person, but because of his respect and his care and his approach, even though he's younger, like you understand? I'm 45, right? You said you're 26, big age difference, but that doesn't mean that your thoughts and minds can't be important to each other. You see what I'm saying? So I completely agree with you 100%. And again, I've been saying this since I came on the scene. If you go back and follow me as far back as since I started, I've said this all the time. It's our responsibility to learn, to teach them, to pass the mantle forward with the respect to them and the respect to us. You see, and to gaming as a whole. Because if gaming was looked at as a piece of shit, cultist, satanic type of thing back when I was growing up. Okay, if you play a game that some people say, oh, they need mental health, they need to go to mental health because there's something wrong with that kid. And we kept fighting and fighting, supporting it and saying, no, that's not the way it is. It really isn't. And now gaming is probably the highest money maker in any form of entertainment in the world today. You see what I'm saying? And I would like to think that was because of people like myself, like Fireballs, like E-Rock, like New Legal, the old cats, the old heads, Sega Man, Sega Forever, 100, all of us guys that supported it through the years with respect and love. And that's the kind of respect and love that I would love to see from more people your age and Reaper's age, and my, quite frankly, my boys, they really respect gaming. They love gaming a whole lot, because I try to bestow it in them, right? As a hobby, not just look at it as a hobby, because this is an art form, this is people's livelihood, this is a career for many people, and it's not just junk. And the way that some people make it seem to be like, oh, that's just garbage. But you get that everywhere. You get that with movies, novels. You get that with if you collect cars, if you collect a baseball card, whatever, you get that from everywhere. So it's to be expected, but at least to try to eliminate it and make it a lot smaller. So, I definitely agree with that, and I think you could just continue on your goal and keep doing it, because, if you ever, like I said, you could always reach out to someone like me. I'll be more than happy to help you out with any thoughts or ideas, something you may not know, and inform you. Because as long as you keep it pure the way you want it and the way you're expressing yourself, I know it's going to be for a good cause, and I know it's going to be safe, and I know I did the right thing to help out the right person that's going to really care about it and not just throw words out there for the sake of clout, like you said, or because they want to get big on YouTube and not really give two shits about the gaming hobby or the industry as a whole. You know?
Yes,
So
sir.
T, I think we spoke enough. T, you take the floor. You're gonna say T Reaper's not gonna agree with anything we say. That's completely different.
Well, more than likely, T probably might already doze back off. I think he's been trying to keep Nas
Nas.
pumped into his veins. But but I'll go ahead and you know what, T Reaper, you there? Okay, yeah, he might come to think of it, he might have stepped away too, because all the it sounded like a wild party and stuff. I think that was on his end. He might have he might still have family over.
He might have, yeah. That's all right. That's all right. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Fireballs.
Okay, well, Um, basically, I'm gonna go ahead and probably cut it out here, but I'll go ahead and share my thoughts on it, starting all the way back to where it was about Nintendo and how games used to launch back then. Another factor we got to also remember is that we didn't have the internet and social media.
Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
that's one of the biggest factors as
Yes, it
to
is.
yeah as to like why we're getting this change of quality of how games are
Mhm.
launching, because with the advent of social media, it's almost like this this who's the first to throw who's able to throw the first punch. That's
Mhm.
what the mentality seems to have shifted to. Whereas, like, okay, the audience is expecting this, and so this is what we're going to have to do. And also, as to what Hebot was going on about with investors, yes, yeah, I can attest to that. Investors are the biggest strong factor as to
Mhm.
what influences how a game comes out. Like, for example, with, you know, even with all this power and
Yeah,
capability.
they could be the Ebenezer Scrooge. Absolutely, absolutely. Mhm.
Yeah, with all this power and capability Series X may have, and with all the chatter about multiplats probably performing and looking better,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
comes down to what the investors are going to allow those teams to do.
Or
That's what it
ask.
comes down to,
Yeah.
because the
Mhm.
most
Mhm.
because the most valuable asset is always human time.
Yep.
And as long as it's going to cost that money, that's the problem. That's going to be the biggest problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Look, Fireballs. To add to what you're saying, if I may, for a few seconds, um, the internet, right? Social media is one of the greatest things that we've had invented in like the existence of fire and probably a tire, right? But
yeah,
at the same time, it is the most harmful and most cruel and really asinine tool and format and place to go that we have now as well. It's like a double-edged sword for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sure. Because a lot of the hurt that comes with a lot of these things going on right now with games, like you said, the risk, the developers, everything, uh, it's from social. Plus the fact that back then, we didn't have the ability that. I think a lot of the creativity also gotten lost because we didn't have the ability to just play games like we have now that existed on our next console because they had a lot of architecture that were the same. Back then, you couldn't play a Super Nintendo game on an NES because it just couldn't play. It was too and far beyond as far as advancement, unless you had some type of adapter, like the way that Sega did with the Sega Genesis, with the Sega Master System. So I think that's also part of the reason why you don't see as much risk as well and creativity because of that, because they've gotten complacent in some areas, in certain ways, in certain approaches. So I think that plays a lot of factor as well, on top of everything else that we talked about tonight. So I'm glad you brought that up because you're very right. Social is a big corporate to the evil that's going on right now.
all right. Well, all right. On that note, let me go ahead and continue on to the outros. Hebot, my brother, thanks, dude.
Yes.
It's always great having you on.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you, man. It's a pleasure. It's my pleasure. I told you I love helping out everyone as much as I can. But a lot of people ask me to come on, and I'm not always able because I'm very busy. I have a big family. I'm also ill, so it's hard to make a schedule. I usually do. We got next Fridays or Wednesdays, and you're doing it. You're kind of taking up for me too. Like if I can't give people entertainment, you're there at the same time. But if we do it at the same day, and work out different schedules so we can help each other out too. You come on one time, come on one time. It's always good to have more content to bring out. So it's a win-win for everybody. It's like Nelson said. He wants to have his own space, whether he's a novice, an expert, and I feel everybody has a place that they can have their own space. It's just finding the time to make enough time for everyone. So I apologize if I can't always come on, but when I do, remember it's from the heart. and I do it because I really appreciate you, and I appreciate your wealth of knowledge, your humbleness. I appreciate your hospitality. You are a complete gentleman with me always. Always have been since I met you through Exile, and I hope we can continue the relationship for a long time. And be good friends, just, forever if possible. Until we die, because that's all it's about. But it is what it is. So it was a pleasure to be here. Is what I'm saying. Pleasure all mine. And if I can do it, just send me the link. I'll come on. If I can't, I'll let you know. It's nothing personal. Don't ever take anything personal.
Right
But you
on,
guys,
man.
you guys can find me obviously on my channel. It's Hebot, with a capital H, capital B, everything else lowercase, and a hyphen between the E and the B. You can find me on Twitter under Powerful Gamer, Instagram C_respect, and on PlayStation I'm Fell from Skies, and on what else am I missing? Oh, obviously, we got next when I do it. Exile podcast on Sunday nights with brother E-Rock. Whenever I come here with Fireballs, or whatever, I'll do something with legal, in direct gaming, or with 100 over there at Intro Media with Xbox Got No Games podcast, whatever, or even Sega Man on his podcast that he does now. The Sega Man, Game Talk with Sega Man, rather. That's what it's called. If he calls me in, you can find me there too. Whatever you see my brothers lingering, I'm more than likely I'll show up at some point in time.
All right. All right. And Mr. Nelson, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me here on YouTube at the Technical Difficulties Podcast, which the channel is Text Storm, one word. And also, you can usually find me on Twitter at Mr. Keep That Bear in Mind one, but bear in mind, keep that bear in mind. There you go. I had a second one. I almost forgot about it. Um, but like I said, I'll probably put in the comments. It's just like what's it called? Like an asterisk. But that's generally what you'll find me on Twitter for the most, because I'm not that crazy about social media like that, but I'm trying to get more into it as we're doing these podcasts or in these things. And something I do want to end on real quick though, because this is something very important. I do want to give this distinction too, in terms of my personal goal about having our own Switzerland. And this is an important distinction that both new and old will have to know about, or should know about at this point in their life. Or then should know if we can get to that point. Is yes, every human being can have their own opinion. You're entitled to your own opinion, but it does not hurt to also develop the skill that's required for you to shut up and listen. You don't always have to voice every opinion, every thought you have on any particular subject. You don't have to. If you want to, go ahead. But understand when you do so, you're opening yourself up to scrutiny. You're opening yourself up to criticism. And if you cannot take that criticism, then keep said thought or keep said opinion to yourself. I'm not saying keep it to yourself 24/7 unless you're comfortable with that. But if you have it within you, just do a little editing. Try to figure out how to best present your thought or your opinion to another human being. Because at the end of the day, y'all, these companies are run by human beings as far as we know, okay? Maybe they could correct me if I'm wrong there. You never know how close we are to Skynet in this, okay? I'm just saying. But at the
Yeah,
end
you
of
ain't
the day,
lying either.
okay? But at the end of the day, again, if you are capable of articulating your thoughts in a sound, fair manner, then people are willing to listen to you. Maybe not everybody, but someone's going to be willing to listen to you. But when you start talking nonsense, yes, you get everyone's ears. But the thing is this, they're not listening to you. They hear what you're saying because it's entertaining, but they're not listening. And if you can make that distinction, you will go a long way in life. But if you can't make that distinction, I just want to give this challenge to you right now. Start it. Take 5 minutes out of your day. How can I learn to shut up and listen? How can I learn to edit myself accordingly and properly to get my thoughts across to another individual or to a group of people? I wanted to issue that challenge out to y'all, whoever may take it. But out in my actual outro on that.
Mhm.
All right.
It was a pleasure meeting you tonight, Nelson. Absolute pleasure. Really nice words.
Yes, sir. And thank you very much for our host for sending me the link to participate within this gracious podcast.
All right. And last but not least, ODT Reaper, you there, man?
Oh, he's hitting hard tonight.
Okay. All right. Well,
you can find him on Instagram.
that's about all I can think is Instagram. You can find them on Instagram and Twitter. I believe under the same handle, I believe.
Yes.
So on that note, once again, I hope everybody enjoyed their Thanksgiving. I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's show. A lot of insightful thoughts, a lot of topics, and also I want everybody to enjoy your weekend and most importantly, enjoy your gaming. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Bye-bye. Peace.
Peace.